I have so many questions. Brooklyn, priority one, which I work at a marketing agency. I do PR to creative. And one question we're grappling with is, what do you tell clients when you say, for creative? And, for research, you got to registers. You guys have any recommendations? Taking direction using the creative people that I imagine that we will.
I'm definitely interested to hear what you two have to say, because what was it that Sam Altman said recently? 95% of all marketing jobs or whatever will be replaced. Is that?
I'm not betting on that, but yes, it is. John Burroughs, graduate, by the way.
So I could certainly see staking out a position on in the space of there are only things that humans can do, and in order for us to secure some of that, like if it's purely design, for example, we have to be the best in one or more different ways. We have the best eye, we have the best use of color. I don't know what it is. Could be copywriting, we could be talking about, could be strategy, writing a creative brief, could be any number of things. I could certainly see staking out a position where we say we don't use it, and here's why. It's because we are the best humans at doing this, and no AI is going to match us. I could also see going to the other end of the market saying, yeah, and that's why there are typos and multiple fingers, extra fingers or whatever else. But you know what? Instead of charging you $500 for that image, I only had to charge you $50, and I can do it a second time, and it'll be right the second time, and it's still cheaper. How are you two?
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, I agree. Either lean one way or the other. It's kind of like karaoke. Don't end up in the middle. Like either lean into it or stake your case, right? I think if you're going to do AI, you have to have the best prompts, and artists, and have kept their prompts secret. Like, they type things out. There's certain nuances that they have and they keep in-house. So I agree with them. Like, either go one way or the other. Don't stay in the middle. We also have one question. After you're done.
I disagree. Just real quickly on this. So, PR is a huge part of my background, and I don't know. It's an interesting topic. Do you go all in? You got my wheels turning, but I think it's okay to not go all in yet and still put your toe in the water or sip the margarita. Like, I still think it's okay. As a PR agency, I think Eric made a great point. I think you guys need to develop your position on it, and your staff needs to be all aligned on it. So maybe some internal education, some, what's your go-to-market strategy with AI? I think you guys need to talk about internally, would be my recommendation. And then make sure your leadership, your team leads, your department leads, your staff are all aligned on that messaging and why and the role AI is going to play. Now, to a client, I would be transparent. Yes, we use AI. Here's how we use it. Here's the value of it. And to that exact point, like the human element is still the most important thing. This is a new space. As I would probably say, as an agency like yours that wants to be best in business for your clients and deliver the greatest value, we're always going to be understanding and learning new technologies that are out there. But we're also a human-based organization, so there is going to be that right balance. And at the end of the day, the humans know what's going to get them to convert, to engage. We're going to be informed by that data that we might be able to get by AI, and we might be able to have some efficiency. So those are just things to think about as you guys develop, like how you end up applying and what you share. I'm in favor of not going all in. And all in could be defined in a few different ways. If it means start using AI for everything, you could be all in as we are all in about learning about this. And we use it, but I would never recommend lying to a client or hiding from a client. We're transparent. At our organization, but also just in the other things I'm involved in. And especially from a PR perspective, I think there's a lot that can be gained from AI. So I don't see anything wrong with being transparent with your client, even if you guys are just starting to just touch the water and aren't sure the role it's going to play in your organization yet. I would really appreciate, as a client, if my partner said that to us, I would really appreciate that forethought. Another thing you guys can do, not being all in, is do thought leadership. So you may not be doing everything yet, but something's come out, Sam Altman's making the news, something. What's your take on it? And send out some thought leadership POVs to your client base and develop that value that you guys understand this space, even though you may not be using it all yet. There was a question.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
A memorandum of use would probably be a good idea. Explicitly state how much you're going to use AI in your work. Is it going to be more than 80%? Then you're probably not owning any of that. Neither is your client. So talk about how you use AI to inspire or innovate or brainstorm or ideate and how that might influence some of your work, but try not to. And find out what is a good balance in terms of how much you're using it, how much of it is actually built into your client's work. And be very explicit on when you're using AI. But jump to your turn.
Speaking of attorneys. Yeah, real quickly, I am an attorney in this space. I want to answer some of these questions. One thing I would say, part of a bit of a nuanced approach to this is, who are your clients in a PR agency? In other words, if you're tending to work for agencies, your clients are going to care about ownership, then you have to have an understanding of when it's applicable and when it's not. If your clients don't care about ownership, then that's not what's most important. Make your privacy is. If your point about spending, less than a human would cost considerably, but to engage and pay for the tools that will professionally and indemnify you for their work in de-identifying. I mean, I can't think of something that would be worse for me than to de-identify a whole bunch of stuff as a human. I would get it wrong. It would be awful. It wouldn't save me time. So I need a tool to do it, but I need to make sure if my job depends on me certifying something, then I need to have some legal protection for the thing I choose to do that process. So I think those are
Good point.
The details of the contracts are going to be important, and they have been for agencies for a long time. And if you haven't been doing your due diligence on, especially the people who've been working in ad tech that has been using AI or machine learning or whatever we called it for years, you've probably been exposing your company or your clients potentially on privacy issues. There's been a couple of big numbers that have came out. Publicis had a $325 million injunction on OxyContin, right? So this is something vacancy owners certainly should have been thinking about. Now, the creative side, I think, is going to have more. That's more on that. The other question? Yes.
So I actually had kind of, two thoughts that tied in together, and I'd love to hear what experiences you folks have or haven't had with it, or what thoughts you have. But it feels like a lot of these questions and concerns and issues, the privacy and how much of the creativity is coming from your people versus being taken away from your people, all of those things. It feels like ultimately this is all kind of coalescing into, at some point in the next 12 to 18 months, our technology as far as phones and tablets and laptops and things like that is finally up to a base level to be able to handle those small models that have been slowly developing smaller and smaller and more specific and more use case specific to be able to fit on local devices. Because ultimately, if you've got a small language model that, because it's so well trained on your specific style, your data, all of that good stuff, it can absolutely emulate you. It just can't do anything other than exactly that. And it doesn't live anywhere but your own server. All of your problems are answered at that point, right? The only issue is, where does it get its training data from, and making sure that you're keeping clear on there. But that feels like it answers legal cases. It answers, all of that. Have you guys had any exposure to that yet? Have you started playing with any of that yet? Do you know anybody who's playing with that yet?
I'll just, without going too far into detail, I know you were talking about engineering, having an engineering team earlier. Our engineering team is dabbling in a lot of these areas, like how can we deal with a lot of law clients, and that's some of that's really important, especially when you start to think of the privacy or the information, both the accuracy and the privacy of it. So I think that you raise a very forward-thinking thought about where that's going, because it's the input. Where are we getting those other inputs from to make you knowledgeable? When you start having take our company that's been 8 to 10 years in the industry, there's a ton of data we have that can make informed decisions. When I think about where I've come from at WPP and Group M, and I know there's some Group Mers here today, like there's right exactly what you're talking about. I mean, they partner with Experian. There's a reason Experian's a client, right? Like there's some of these larger organizations have that volume of data. So I do think it starts to become realistic, especially if you just get access to a freelancer engineer. I think the best thing any digital marketing agency can have is an engineer on staff. It's one thing that attracted me to where I am now that Group M did not have, was the depth of engineering, which is a bit crazy.
You had no engineers, I can't believe.
Yeah, well, I mean, there were some, but they just certainly didn't play a role like the engineers play. We have over 70 engineers within our organization. So that's how some of these things can come to life, and we're able to be agile. But I do think that there's a potential for entities that are small, just how long have you been in the industry and where are you getting your data from? Because you can start to pull your information and create your own based on just what you have in-house. And I think that's I don't think it's a future I think we're starting to see that happen. I don't think that's been thought about outside of marketing a lot, certainly in engineering and aerospace, et cetera. But you raised a very good point. Yeah.
We're past time, guys, so thank you. We can keep the mics on, and if there's other questions, I'm sure panel can stay, but give a round of applause for panel.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for staying today, and we'll see you at our next event.